Okay, so as we begin this, um, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't really have too much structure to this. I have an order I'm going to talk about things, the chronological order of things and whatnot, but it's not going to be too overly thorough or anything. I'm going to give my little brief reviews of each album, talking about some of the highlights on each one and such. Um, and it's just more something as a starting point. I want people to look at this as a starting point to understand why I enjoy the Doobie Brothers, and this is this is of course just the first part. I don't know how long this is going to be, uh, this specific part, but I'm going to split it up into a few parts to make it a bit easier. So yeah, I don't want to be here too long, keep you waiting too long in this first tab here, but um, pretty much I'm going to be going by memory for a lot of this. So you'll be surprised. It's going to go a lot better than you'd think. Late 1969, John Hartman arrives in the San Jose, California area, and he's looking to start up a band. I believe it is Skip Spence of Moby Grape who recommends him to Tom Johnston, who is currently going to college in the San Jose area at that time. And the two get along well and start grooving in the basement of a little apartment building, causing a ruckus. But this building kind of becomes a big music central of that little area. John is, of course, a drummer. Tom is a guitarist. The two of them get along really well and start grooving, and they eventually get a little three-piece going known as Pud. Uh, and they just perform locally in the area, and they eventually stumble upon Patrick Simmons. They happen to meet him at a performance at a local gig, and the two parties are both mutually impressed with each other's work. What Patrick notices about Tom is that he's got this nice rhythmic guitar playing, this chugga chugga chugga. He adds the intensity through the guitar playing. The guitar isn't necessarily the melody; it adds a lot of that rhythm, and that it builds up a lot. And what Tom sees in Patrick is that he's got really nice finger picking on a guitar. Very nice melodies that he's able to play. So the two of them get along well. John, Pat, Tom, they're all getting along really well. Not the two of them, the three of them. And eventually they get Bruce Cohn as their manager, and the three of them manage to send out a demo to Warner Bros. And goes pretty well. It actually somehow works out. And they recruit bassist Dave Shogren, who's not really relevant too much past here. Yeah, no one really cares about Dave Shogren. Eh. Eh. And the four of them as a four-piece. Two guitars, one bassist, one drummer, but three vocalists. Everyone but John sings. Tom is the lead singer, of course, and Pat and Dave sing backup. And the four of them decide to make... Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. I ordered these tabs in a bad order. Chateau Liberté. This is a basically local gig that they were performing at a lot during that time. Big popular spot in the area, where you'd get all the mountain hippies and especially the Hells Angels bikers who would come by and whatnot all the time. And they would perform and whatnot. Bruce Cohn would have to collect all their money and various weaponry at the door to let them in and have them see the show. But it was a very good thing, a very good gig to have, because I meant you're pretty good at the local level if you're scoring this place consistently for San Jose at that time. So now that they are doing pretty well with Warner Bros., they have their local gigs. They manage to strike up an album, the self-titled Doobie Brothers, 1971. This album, compared to their later stuff, it is missing something. I like revisiting it a lot. I get a lot out of it, but the groundwork is laid down for sure, such as in the opening track in their first single, Nobody. You instantly hear how Pat and Tom work as guitarists. It's just instantly laid down in that track, and it works really well. It's a very great opening track to let you know what this band is about. It's got good energy, and that's really one of the key things with this band, is that their live performances are full of energy. They tend to take their tracks up a bit in tempo, but the drums really bring it, and everyone brings it. And so it just results in these highly energized performances. But this album doesn't fully reflect that. So we have tracks like Greenwood Creek and It Won't Be Right, starting with these slow rhythmic guitar rhythms with the counter melody, and they sound almost identical in the beginning and the intro of these songs, which it just doesn't work. It's kind of jarring. The whole album feels a bit slow and similar sounding to itself. It just all blends together. It's hard to really make much of this album. I mean, there's a couple highlights for sure, like Feeling Down Farther has a bit more energy to it, or The Master, the chorus on that track, the backing vocals are really nice on that track, especially during the chorus. Or how's about Closer Every Day? That's this is the first track in the Doobie Brothers history, the only one on this album where Pat Simmons takes lead. Otherwise, Tom Johnston kind of takes lead throughout the rest of the album. And this is already setting the mood for a lot of the Simmons tracks. Just, there's this kind of hollow, sinister feel already to this track. So it works. And his voice really works well for it. He's got a very diverse voice, and he can get the emotion out. He can get what he's going for in these types of tracks. So moving along, they decide after this album to try a tour. They go on tour, and the tour doesn't go well like the album, because the album only sells about 10,000 units. So now they're stuck. They go back to the drawing board, and they're thinking, okay, we had too many producers on our first album. We're going to produce it ourselves. And that's a disaster too. So at this point, they decide, you know what, we're going to get the one guy, the new guy, who, on our first album. We think he can do us justice. Ted Templeman can do us justice. And so they have Ted take over as the sole producer for future albums. Another notable thing at this time is that bassist Dave Shogren leaves the band. Just relationship kind of falls apart, and Dave is never to be mentioned ever again. So bye. So now there are only 3 people. So what are they gonna do? First off, a few years back, Pat and Tiran Porter were in a band together. And Tiran's a starving musician at this time, of course, so Pat decides to call him up, say, hey, you want to come jam? And Tiran's always down for a jam. So he joins as the new bassist and backing vocalist. And he's got a very nice baritone voice, which works really well in the context of their vocals. And, of course, our other member, who has fantastic hair, And you'll notice Tiran wears really great hats. Michael Hossask has really nice hair. Look at that hair, that beard, that just overflowing. It's all magnificent. Michael is a drummer in the local area, and he happens to be with his band at the same gig as the Doobie Brothers. And John decides to ask everyone, "Hey, I think Mike's pretty good. Can he join us? Can he sit in with us?" And they let him, and it just brings the stage to life, because having two drummers just adds so much more energy, because it makes the drum solo go crazy. You can have so much happening on stage, but at the same time, if you have the drummers matched up for the main beats, it just adds that much more power, and it brings it to life in a whole new way. So from this point on, the Doobie Brothers are two guitarists, two drummers, one bassist, three vocalists. That's three vocal harmony. So they go on to make Toulouse Street in 1972. And what's notable about this album is that this is when they get their big break. This is when it happens. With Listen to the Music, which I'm sure you know if you're watching this video. It's basically their signature song. It's not like it's a top hit, didn't top the charts or anything. It only hit number 11. But it's still a very noteworthy song. This was their first song to really get major radio play, and very, very worth it too, because it shows off that this band has two lead vocalists, and it shows that rhythmic guitar playing. It's a really nice track to just let you know what this band is, because this track's also got good energy. Rockin' Down the Highway, that track's got great energy too, and that one also got good radio airplay, even though it wasn't even a single. Mamaloi, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's just a nice feel-good track. I don't know, just a nice one there. Toulouse Street, the title track, another one of Pat Simmons' kind of eerie tracks. I don't know how he does it. And he just keeps doing it. He pumps out like one of these an album, these really kind of more eerie tracks. And this is it for this album. So, now another thing that's really noteworthy with the Doobie Brothers is that they know how to do a classy cover. And this album has 3 covers on it. There's Cottonmouth, Don't Start Me to Talkin', and Jesus Is Just Alright With Me. And Don't Start Me to Talkin'. Let's start with that, because I think that one's honestly the weakest one. I don't know. It's a more jazzy piece, and there's a nice horn section, but I don't know. I'm not feeling that one. It just doesn't feel like a Doobie Brothers track. No matter when we're talking, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't have that energy to it in any sense. It feels kind of lifeless, that track. Cottonmouth, meanwhile, the horn part really brings that one to life well. But Jesus Is Just Alright With Me. I mean, that's how you do a cover. I mean, Pat Simmons wrote his verse on that song just for this cover. It's just a really nice cover. I mean, you got Tom doing his little ad-libs over the whole song. Works really well. There's, I think Disciple's kind of a throwaway track, but in return, White Sun has some really pretty vocal harmonies. So it's overall a good improvement album, but I feel like there's work to be done still on making a better album still. And here's where it happens. This one's an improvement. This one goes even better. So the big crazy song that there's two of them really. Everyone knows Lawn Train Runnin' and China Grove. They're the big classics. Uh, so Lawn Train Runnin', it's about a train, and like I find it interesting how that song was made. I mean, it's just Tom just had little ad libs in his mind, and he just kind of went from there. When Ted was like, "Hey, you should take that song further, make it about a train, and just go with it," and it just happened. Song just came to life, and he wrote it super fast, and it happened, and that song more than any has that really nice counter melody from Pat. Tom's guitar playing, just keeping the track moving. It works so well. China Grove. I don't even know. I don't think I have too much to say about this track, but it's a classic. It's just a classic. Album opens up really well with Natural Thing, because I like I like that song because it opens up with a synthesizer, which is a statement for sure. Because they haven't. What's in common with all these first few albums is there's not much piano or synthesizer work, and most of it's just done by Bill Payne, of Little Feat. But this synthesizer, it's just really nice. Just a very nice track. Clears the Driven Snow, I'd say, is kind of that eerie Pat Simmons track on this one, but it's kind of in a different way. It's a little more subversive, where you kind of, it takes you a bit to realize, like, it feels better, and then you kind of think about it. It's like, it feels off. But then midway through the track, I'm sorry, I just threw a USB flash drive. No, but midway through the track switches and builds up energy, because it's got this nice calm vibe at the beginning, and then it switches and the energy gets moving, and I love that about this track. It's a really nice one. Without You and Evil Woman are really notable, because these are the first times that the whole band wrote songs together. Every single band member is credited on both of these tracks. And they're both nice tracks for sure. I'd say the other one I'd like to talk about, South City Midnight Lady. Wow. Another great one. Skunk Baxter, and we'll talk about him again pretty soon. His pedal steel guitar work is really nice on this track, but just such a calming song to listen to. I love reading YouTube comments and just people being like, talking about their experience with a South City Midnight Lady, and I'll never be able to relate, but I do like the song, so I don't know, it's just a very nice song. The guitar is excellent on that song overall. So moving along, what were once vices are now habits. This one's pretty cool too. Lots of great tracks on this one. And this, I'll admit, I'm not as familiar with this album, just because, not really sure why. I just haven't revisited it too much recently, so I apologize about that. But I feel I just get a more warm impression from this album. I don't know, just the title, not title track, the opening track, Song to See You Through, is a very warm track. It's a very nice track to open up on. Trying to remember that one. I believe opens up with a nice horn section and just nice warm lyrics. It's a pretty song. And then Spirit afterwards. Spirit's a really cool track because it's got that guitar part that keeps it moving, the dual guitars, but at the same time, I think the drums are so crucial to this track because they keep changing. They don't ever get too crazy, but they keep subtle changes that just change how it keeps you always invested in this song, which is really nice. So the energy is really strong in spirit. Uh, we're gonna come back to that one later. Uh, you just can't stop it. That one too. Really nice backing vocals. I'd say the backing vocals really take the lead on this track because I don't know, just in the background, like I can't even think of the part, but it really takes precedence, and it sounds really nice on this track. Uh, Another Park, Another Sunday. Yeah, what a banger. And, this was the first single from this album, and we'll talk more about this one in a moment. Again, another really warm track. It's a really warm song, and it's a very calming one, too. I'd say it's something different from this band, but it works. Daughters of the Sea has a lot of percussion on it all over the place, and just really nice track and such. Flying Cloud is a Tiran Porter track, which we don't get too many of those. Just an instrumental, and it feels more experimental, which is nice. I think that one's pretty cool. But the story with this album that is really interesting is that we have Another Park, Another Sunday. The first single of the album doesn't get too popular. I believe it topped at 31 on the charts. So they're kind of in a pickle trying to figure out what to do. So they reshipped out Nobody from the first album to try and figure out something because they're panicking. They need to get a good single out right now. But meanwhile, some random small radio station figures out what the B-side is to Another Park, Another Sunday. It's Black Water by Pat Simmons. And they start playing it. And then another radio station notices. And then another one. And so on and so forth. And soon enough, here's this rock and roll band with this really different song. And this song is all of a sudden all over the radio going into 1975. And the band's completely stunned to hear it's doing well. So they officially released it as a single, and it tops the charts. It's their first number one hit. They did it. And it's a worthy track. It's a worthy track to do it on. I mean, those vocals at the end are so good. That little moment where it's just the vocals back and forth, really nice. There's the layers on it are cool, and I think I'll always have those verses ingrained in my mind. I really like hearing this one live because it's just got a chaotic feel live. So I don't know. Black Water is just a really great one. And of course, the viola solo works really well, too. I feel like the song's incomplete without the viola solo. It just, the strings. That string solo just makes it. So, at this time, the band is going through a bit of a transition, going into their next album. And we're a little ahead of ourselves, too, talking about Black Water. Because same time as Black Water is starting to grow big and all that, we have some big changes in the band. Michael Hossask is, sick of it. He's sick of all the touring and all that stuff and whatnot. He's out. So, somehow, in a miracle, next day, Keith Knudsen comes in and is their new drummer for a 6-week tour. And the thing is, though, this guy can also sing backing vocals. He sings nice backing vocals. So he does. Well, what's interesting is Michael Hossask still plays drums on this album, but Keith Knudsen sings backing vocals on this album, but doesn't play any drums. So, just interesting. And then also at the same time, they have Steely Dan opening for them on tour. And so they get a really good relationship with Jeff Skunk Baxter, who's one of the guitarists for Steely Dan, of course. And, however, of course, at this time, Steely Dan's kind of like, Walter Becker and Donald Fagen are like, hey, we're gonna kind of stop touring and we're just gonna focus on studio albums. And Skunk is like, I want to tour. I wanna like play live. So he quits, gets fired, something along those lines. And the Doobie Brothers are like, come with us, come to the dark side. But it's the light side. And Skunk becomes a full-on member going into their next album, Stampede. And I haven't commented yet. I have not commented yet on the album covers yet. But I really like a lot of these. So this one, not great. I don't know. This one just really... I feel like they generally fit the vibe of what they're going for on each album. Like the Captain and Me, what a cool one. This is such an interesting album cover. Just all the guys and horses just in a carriage. It's cool. Or like this one. I feel like this one really gets the warmth of this album with the whole red orange aesthetic. And Stampede. This feels more like a country rock album. So having the guys just horseback riding in cowboy gear, that is sick. That works really well for Stampede. So now the band's got 3 guitarists, 2 drummers, 1 bassist, and 4 vocalists. So it's a step up. So I'll be honest. I think this is the one that I revisit the most out of Tom Johnston's albums. I really like this album. I'd say Sweet Maxine. I know Tom composed the song and Pat wrote the lyrics, and I'd say it's one of my favorite Tom Johnston compositions. I don't know. I just really like this song. It's a very appealing one. I can't explain it, but I don't know if it's the like just what comes to mind is that guitar solo, that da 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 da. Yeah, that guitar solo is fire. I don't know. And just the whole vibe of the song. She was born with it in her soul. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a feel good rock and roll song at its core, and it hits for me. It fully hits. It swings and it hits. I'm not gonna pronounce this one right. Slack key Soquel Reg. Someone correct me on the pronunciation of the word Soquel. Soquel? Soquel? In the comments. Please, someone correct me. Yeah, wow. That's such a nice track. It's just a simple little guitar tune. I love when they perform this one live, too. Just 2 acoustic guitars. But they do take it down in key live, so it feels a lot warmer on the album. It's just a very simple but pleasing track. The cover of Take Me in Your Arms, fantastic. Those horns, the backing vocalists, it's great. I cheat the hangman. And this is another one of those eerie Pat Simmons tracks. But this is like the best one. I don't know. I've come to really like this one. I think it's partially just because it's one of those concert staples that they performed a lot at that time. But this is another one that's dynamic. It starts with this slow opening, with Pat singing, but then it gets into this big eruption where there's just so much happening, and beautiful track, and just the concept. I'm not one to listen too closely to lyrics, but I just know they fit really well with this one. I cheat the hangman. That's perfect for this song. And then Pressy. Why am I so stupid at pronouncing things? Like someday there's gonna be a clip compilation of me trying to pronounce things and just failing because I'm terrible at it. Basically, the song following "I Cheat the Hangman" that Jeff Skunk Baxter wrote. That's just a really nice follow-up. It feels so appropriate to follow it. It's just a nice album. That middle section in particular is just so good that it just really elevates this album. It makes it a really nice listen. So Blackwater is at the top of the charts. They just released a new album, and now they're going on a national tour to promote their number one single. Things seem pretty good, right? However, Tommy's sick. So apparently Tom Johnston in high school had some problems with a bleeding ulcer, and he just didn't really realize how bad it was, and the life of touring got to him. Just always being on the move, always needing to keep going, and when you're not on the road, you got to be in the studio recording, or you got to be at home writing all the time. Just no stopping with this man. So his health was taking a major toll. It was not doing well, and he had to get sent home. So the whole band was stuck at this point. They're stuck, and they're like, what do we do? Do we perform? Do we go on without him? And they had to. They managed it. They kept performing, and there's even a clip of them performing New Year's. Yeah, they performed at New Year's without him. But they survived. So at this point, Pat's like, hey, we need I think we need someone to sing backing vocals with us. I think we need another backing vocalist to help support all these parts. And Skunk happens to know a guy. Next time, we'll delve into a different era for the Doobie Brothers. Alright. I suppose that's it for now. So I hope you guys enjoyed part 1 of this. I hope that was somewhat thorough, somewhat enjoyable. I think I'll be a little more knowledgeable for part 2 because this is my era I really like of the band. So I really love, I should say. So yeah, I hope you guys got something from this. So thank you. Feel free to leave a like or subscribe or whatever. I don't like doing that too much, but I'll do it on this one because I put in a little more effort and whatnot. Sorry I didn't do any references to the actual music and like show off any specific tracks. I don't want this video to get copyright claimed, you know? So yeah. Thanks for watching. I don't know when I'll have part 2 out, but it'll happen some point soon. So, yeah, thanks. Have a good one. Bye.